What is up, my crime crazy people? Welcome to Veil of Humanity, where we explore the thin line between conscience, fragility, and accountability. We are your hosts, Melonie Yelvington
and Kimberly Taylor. So I want to give some trigger warnings right off. Let y'all know that this case will discuss child's death and mental breakdown. Please handle with care. We will list resources in the source notes if you or someone you know is needing help. Please, please, please reach out to somebody. Just know someone does care about you.
On a quiet June morning in 2001, in a modest home on the outskirts of Houston, Texas, a tragedy unfolded that would shock the nation and force America to confront the darkest corners of mental illness, motherhood, and faith. 36-year-old Andrea Yates, once described as a loving and devoted mother of 5, dialed 911 and calmly told the operator she needed the police. Within minutes, officers would discover a scene that defied comprehension. Each of Andrea's 5 children, from 6-month-old Mary to 7-year-old Noah, lifeless in the family bathtub. What drove a mother, by all accounts, intelligent, compassionate, and deeply religious, to commit an unthinkable act? Was it evil or was it illness? And how did her husband, Rusty Yates, and their shared belief system intertwine with a tragedy that seemed both spiritual and psychological? This is not just a story of a crime. It's the story of a woman at war with her own mind and a system that failed to see her slipping away.
So grab your favorite beverage and a pillow to scream into as we discuss this very sad, very tragic case.
Oh, and just so you know, we are a fan of the cursey words, and we'll probably be using them.
Yeah. Okay, Biss. Are you ready?
You know I'm always ready.
Do you remember this case?
I do.
I
do, because I lived in Texas all my life, except for when I was in the military, but definitely remember this case.
It kind of keeps a lasting memory on you.
It's something you don't really forget when you... It's really actually very shocking.
It is. It's a very shocking, very tragic case, and there's the whole postpartum depression. It needs to be more forefront, especially with new mothers and mothers who have back-to-back births and everything. So hopefully eventually we start shedding more and more light on this.
Yeah, I never experienced it myself, but I know it can be a very scary thing to probably go through.
I've known a lot of personal friends and family that suffered, and it's scary to watch.
Yeah.
I will let y'all know that we have kind of a special guest today. We have Mr. Brunk with us. So if you hear any kind of extra panting, that's just him. He's an old man and pants a lot. So just to let y'all know. So Andrea Paya Yates was born in 1964 in Houston, Texas, to a family steeped in conservative Christian faith. Her early personality was described by those who knew her as ambitious and high-achieving. She became valedictorian in high school, went on to nursing school, and eventually worked as a nurse. But even early on, she carried undercurrents of emotional fragility, depression, and anxiety. In her marriage to Rusty Yates, they were married in 1993. The couple embraced a conservative, family-centered Christian life. They had children in quick succession. By some accounts, Andrea and Rusty believed in bearing children unto God, placing heavy emphasis on religious obedience, purity, and motherhood as a divine calling. But Andrea's mental health showed cracks. She had a history of postpartum depression, prior hospitalization, mood disorders, and episodes of suicidal ideation, in which this is kind of where the whole controversy of the case kind of plays into, because she does have a history of it. And we're going to talk more into it, but the strong, as religious as they were and as strong as they were, and some of that can,
Yeah, because Rusty was just kind of, wasn't he just kind of like, yeah, we're just going to have kids until, as long as God keeps giving them to us, we're just going
to
keep on having them.
Yeah.
Not thinking about what it was doing to her.
And the conditions that they were living in, and, at one point they were all on a bus, and I'm kind of jumping, but he kind of shoves everything under the rug as far as her mental health goes, and it's kind of sad. And it feels like, once you get more into the case and you're just like, there were signs and maybe this could have been prevented.
Yeah.
Some medical records and testimonies from friends and family indicate that she was increasingly isolated, overburdened, and struggling against internal voices of guilt, sin, and fear. So you can actually consult the scholarly review that's called the Andrea Yates case, Insanity on Trial. It traces her psychiatric trajectory in detail.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And there's also an article, Newfound Religion, Mother's God, and Infanticide. It delves into how extreme religious frameworks can distort maternal identity in a crisis. So one of the most haunting and controversial axes in the Yates case is how Andrea's faith and religious worldview, especially her anxiety about sin, salvation, and spiritual purity, were entangled with her mental collapse. From trial records and psychiatric testimony, Andrea believed that she was spiritually unworthy, that satanic influence could invade her household, and that her children's souls might be tainted or at risk of eternal damnation. In extreme psychotic states, she reportedly had the conviction that by ending her children's lives, she would spare them from sin or eternal suffering. In Newfound Religion, Mother's God and Infanticide, the author argues that in some maternal infanticide cases, religious narratives can become distorted into mercy killings in a deranged mind. In the Yates trial, defense psychiatrists testified that Andrea's religious preoccupations fused with her psychosis, which religious guilt turned into command hallucinations. So her religious life was not just background in her delusional framework. It was active, it was loud, and it was deadly.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all. Before we move on to the next part, this would be a good time to grab your pillow that I suggest to scream into. Hold. Cry. I want everybody to take a big deep breath in. We are going to discuss that day and the deaths. If this is something that you do not want to hear, we completely understand. We will make a note in the show notes of what timestamp that you should skip to. On the morning of June 20th, 2001, after her husband left for work, Andrea Yates carried out what would become the worst day of her life, and of course, of 5 children and their family. At 9:48 a.m., she placed a 911 call. That call would become central evidence in both trials. So, first responders would find the children drowned one by one in the bathtub. The bodies were moved to a bed and covered as though they were asleep. The oldest child, Noah, he was age 7. He had attempted to flee, but she had brought him back to that tub.
Didn't he see what she did to the younger ones first? He
Yeah.
was last, wasn't he?
Because she started with the youngest and he was the last one.
Yeah.
She later confessed, I just killed my children.
That's crazy.
So we do have a written partial transcript. We're going to go ahead and go through that really quickly with y'all.
I'll be playing the operator, and Kim will be playing Andrea Yates. Operator, what is your name?
Andrea Yates.
What's the problem?
I just need them to come.
Is your husband there?
No,
What's the problem?
I need them to come.
Are you having a disturbance? Are you ill or what?
Yes, I'm ill.
Do you need an ambulance?
No, I need a police officer. Yes, please send an ambulance.
What kind of a medical problem are you having? Are you at 942 Beachcomber?
Yes,
Are you there alone?
yes. What's chilling here is what she doesn't say. She never
Explicitly?
explicitly, yes. She never says, I killed them or they're dead. She speaks calmly. She speaks in clipped phrases, often deflecting or not answering the operator's follow-up questions. The breathing becomes heavier. Jurors heard this call during the trial. The lack of emotional breakdown, the omissions, the controlled phrasing, all became point of argument. Some argued this showed she understood what she was doing, i.e., that she was clearly sane. Others said it was consistent with severe psychosis and dissociation. So after the call, police arrived at the Yates home. The first responding officers described Andrea Yates as soaked, calm, and cooperative. Her hair and clothes were dripping wet, and inside they found 5 drowned children, ages 7, 5, 3, 2, and 6 months. The younger ones were in the bathtub. Later, bodies were placed on the bed and covered with a sheet. When questioned, Andrea purposely told the officers, I just killed my children, in a voice described as flat and emotionless. She was taken into custody, and the investigation began, including psychiatric evaluations, interviews, and media frenzy. The Yates case quickly captured the public imagination and horror. Newspaper headlines screamed, "Mother kills her children." Talk shows debated mental illness versus motherhood, and commentators polarized between demonizing Andrea and advocating compassion for her mental illness. Some framed it as a monstrous betrayal of motherhood. Others urged examining the gaps in mental health care, postpartum psychiatry, and faith culture. The case reopened conversations about women's mental health, post-childbirth, and how society stigmatizes women who break. Importantly, many coverage pieces emphasized her Christian faith and speculated on religious extremism. This framing was double-edged. It fueled moral panic, but also obscured deeper psychiatric complexity. There's multiple existing podcasts, that have tackled this case. One would be The Casual Criminalist. Their episode is The Tragic Case of Andrea Yates. In March of 2002, Andrea Yates stood trial in Houston on multiple counts of capital murder. Her defense entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. Their key defense arguments was psychiatric testimony that she was suffering from severe postpartum psychosis, delusions, command hallucinations, and that her religious obsessions had merged into psychosis. That she lacked the capacity to distinguish right from wrong at the act. Prosecution, however, countered, saying that the murders were planned. For example, the sequential drowning, the covering the bodies, and they implied awareness and premeditation of this. Highlighted that she called 911, she navigated the questioning and placed calls to her husband, indicating she understood consequences. Jurors were presented the chilling 911 tape in court, and after deliberating less than 4 hours, they found her guilty and sentenced her to life in prison with parole eligible after 40 years. That swift verdict raised controversy because some said the jury was unable to grapple with the competing narratives of madness and responsibility. So here's the thing, this is kind of where the mental health starts questioning and the experts come in, and I completely understand with wanting your kids to be raised in a religious background. But they were following, and I'm trying to find it, but they were following this preacher that was a kind of a crazy preacher.
A loop-de-loop.
Yeah, like it wasn't like your normal down the church, small road, Baptist. He was like delusion, like a reminds me of
more like a cult leader than an actual preacher.
I'm thinking like Lori Daybell and them. That's where my mind's going with that.
Yes.
So, and they were like living on this bus, and they were just kind of, according to the Bible, according to this religious views and everything, your job is just to push out kids, and she had this history of mental health, and she would go into an institute. She would get on meds.
They tell her at one point, didn't her doctor tell her at one point, you need to stop having children.
Yeah.
It's not good for you and your...
And then they had the youngest, and I think that was kind of like, kind of that breaking point with that one. They were saying, hey, your mental health is deteriorating, and maybe it's time to stop about, you have plenty of kids. I understand you want to give more, but
it's what God wants. So
it is what God wants, but maybe it's time because it's taking a toll.
Yeah.
And it brings into the whole question, religious and cults, and that gets us into, Lori and Chad and the whole Daybell case, and, when is too much, and I'm not here to debate religion. Everybody has their own beliefs, but cults, borderline cults like this.
Yeah.
So, after the conviction, defense appealed, challenging the judge's instructions on insanity and arguing that the trial had improperly excluded certain psychiatric defense evidence. In 2006, she was retried. This time, they found her not guilty by reason of insanity, and she was committed to the Kerrville State Hospital, a psychiatric facility in Texas. She does remain confined there, under psychiatric care, and has, by accounts, she's declined to petition for release. And I think she actually came up for release recently, and she's, they're like, you can get out, you can go, and she doesn't want to. She wants to stay where she's at. So she does have an annual review where she does, she's eligible for her annual competency review to determine if she can be released, but she waives that right every year. And according to her attorney, she prefers to remain in the hospital to continue her treatment. Her daily life, she leads a quiet life at the facility where she spends time making greeting cards and other crafts. There is a memorial fund. Those proceeds from the sale of her crafts are anonymously donated to the Yates Children Memorial Fund, which raises awareness for women's mental health, and particularly with postpartum mental illness.
That's good.
She does keep in contact with her former attorney, George Parnham. He has stated that she grieves for her children every day, and she's aware that he places flowers on their graves. In 2024, it was reported that she speaks with her ex-husband, Rusty Yates, on a monthly basis.
Well, I think it's good that in the end he didn't blame her. You know what I mean? Because he wasn't there for her.
No.
But to wait, I can't imagine her being in a psychosis and coming out of it and realizing what she's done.
Yeah.
That is why I would want to stay there.
And that may be one of the reasons that she stays there. Because being under a psychosis with any kind of depression, you're in a whole different state. And when you disassociate and everything, and you come back to reality, and you have to live with anything that you've done underneath that other state. But mental health is no joke, and it needs...
No, it's not.
It needs more attention in this country. There needs to be more resources, more things readily available for people. Postpartum is one of those ones that's just kind of like pushed to the side and not really talked about. And it needs
because
to
nobody
be brought.
believes it. Nobody believes that when a woman has a baby, that she can
sink into a depression and start not realizing what the toll that pregnancy takes on your body, and what happens when you finally do give birth and you no longer have this child.
Yeah. Because the postpartum stuff that I have always heard about was like, and the baby doesn't like me, or the baby's not bonding with me, or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That may be part of what she was experiencing, but then also the religious part of it where she thought she was saving them too.
Yeah.
So she had a lot going on. A lot.
I mean, if you truly in a psychosis and you are thinking demonic, because I think there was another case in Texas where the lady was hearing voices about that. I think there's been a couple. She was hearing voices to kill her kids. You know, when
I remember she stoned them, didn't she? Is that her?
Yeah.
She stoned them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and then there was one, I think it was up in Plano, where she cut the baby's arms off. And
I
so
remember
it's,
that too.
you know, psychosis is a horrible, horrible thing. And when hearing voices, and if you're schizophrenic or anything like that, it's, again, we need more funds and resources for mental health. Her legal saga continues to stir debate over how the justice system, mental health professionals, and society handled cases at the intersection of psychosis and motherhood. The Andrea Yates case forces us into uncomfortable territory.
And I'm wondering if she would just want to... Can you imagine the attention that she would get after all these years? How many people would want to talk to her?
Yeah.
I'd stay in there too.
All the interviews. So, here's the thing. When does mental illness excuse or mitigate criminal liability? How do we hold accountable someone who murdered her own children in what she believed to be a merciful act? How much responsibility lies with medical providers, community support, faith communities, and familiar pressure? Are we ever justified in saying this person was too ill to control themselves, especially when children are victims? And what do we say about religion? Does faith nurture, or in rare psychiatric crises, warp? As Mel has said, the veil of humanity is thin, and in tragic fractures of mind and soul, morality, identity, and compassion collide. Okay, y'all. Let's breathe.
Woosah.
That's a very, very heavy case.
Extremely heavy. That's a heavy-hearted one. I mean, they all are in their own way.
They are.
But this one is just particularly...
This one's always been a very, very sad case. I want to thank you for joining us on this difficult journey into one of the most tragic maternal filicide cases in American history. Andrea Yates did something no mother should ever do, but the story behind the day reveals more than horror. It reveals failures of mental health, infrastructure, the risk of extreme religious guilt, and the fragile line between devotion and delusion. Next week, we'll explore another case where faith, identity, and darkness converge. Until then, please remember, if you or anyone you know is struggling with postpartum depression, psychosis, or a mental crisis, reach out. No one should face that alone. All right, my crime crazy people, we will be back next week with a brand new episode. To see all of our source material, please consult the show notes. Don't forget to click that subscribe, follow button, and catch us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Veil of Humanity Podcast. Also, if you have any questions, you want to provide feedback, or you have a case suggestion, please send us an email at veilofhumanity@gmail.com. Hosted by Kimberly Taylor and Melonie Yelvington. Produced, edited by Courtney Santos. Music is Phoenix by Luke Joe, a Bronx Bay production. Okay, Bronx, tell everyone we will see them again next week.